Age is the death of your progress, or so it may seem that a lot of people believe. In fact, as we get older in the gym, we do often see a bit of a decline in our progress, but a lot of that is actually mental. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We're going to be discussing why that potential statement I said at the start isn't true. So, Tom, we're going to be talking about as you get older, what to do as you want to still engage with your health and fitness. And this is something that we have had experience with, with the old aging thing that we've had to we have just had to go through since the train. Like, what age did you start training, Tom?
Uh, Probably like 14 or 15, I think.
Same.
So probably like 20 years ago. I think we're in that funny stage of life where to anyone in the 20s, they're like, "Oh, you're well old," but to anyone who's like 40 or 50, they're like, "Oh, you're still really
Still
young."
young. I know. Yeah, yeah. It's a weird place to be in that in between. I mean, I don't mind it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've obviously experienced that change in the 2 decades we've both been training. So we're going to discuss a little bit more about that, and as I said, potentially why it's something you shouldn't believe in. So Tom, is there anything you have? Well, first of all, actually, how are you? How have you been? How rude of
I've
me.
been good. I've been good, thank you, mate. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I've the last week seems like it's just absolutely flown by as they as they all seem to do. But
Yeah, they
we're
do.
preparing for Easter holidays, and for anyone who is a parent, they will know that that's not it's slightly different when you have like school age children, because like nursery just runs all the way through, but like yeah, preparing for like that time off and just like organizing either like holidays or holiday camps, or like organizing around work and stuff like that. It's actually like, yeah, it's quite a lot of like mental work that goes into that. And I'm just at the moment kind of burying my head in the sand about summer holidays, which obviously is 6 weeks of 6 weeks off.
Oh, I thought you were going
But
to say 6 weeks away, and I was just like, wait a minute, what? What day is it? And I was like, I mean, no time's going fast, but I mean, you could
yeah, I know. I
convince me
mean
there
that
that
I
it was
mean
six
that
weeks
that
away.
that'd be nice. But
Yeah,
yeah, just preparing for that, and actually we're heading off on a sunny holiday next week. So just yeah, basically just getting ready for that. How about you? What's new
nice.
with you?
I now might have a potential source of motivation to train. I talked about this in the last episode, how my motivation to train's been low, and that's fine. That happens throughout, your training career slash journey. And this, as I said, been trained for 20 years, so to expect it to not happen at any point is a bit delusional. So if anyone else is out there feeling like this, it's pretty normal. But I think I might have a potential new reason to train. I can't talk about it just yet, and by the time this episode comes out, it might have been
Oh,
confirmed, but it's not been confirmed just yet. So it's
AG.
exciting. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm like, I would love for it to happen. I would, I mean, some of the experiences I've had doing that type of thing are incredible. So fingers crossed, because even the just the idea of potentially doing it is making me want to train. So that I'm taking that as an absolute win. Um,
Nice.
Other than that, I feel good. Haven't had any injuries. Training's been going well. Yeah, I can't really complain. It's a pretty good spot to be in, though, isn't it?
Yeah, nice,
Unlike
mate.
people who think that
So
they're,
cagey.
yeah, oh, I have to be, have to be. I'm not saying it until it's an actual confirmed thing. I mean, I
Yeah,
did the same thing with the book as well. I think that you speak something too soon, you get excited about it, and then sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's happened to me too many times. So I'm just
yeah.
not letting myself hope too much. But even just that little bit of hope is definitely giving me the stuff I need to train right now, because, as I said, I just was just getting a bit bored.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, these little periods of time you go through, it kind of ties in nicely to what we're talking about today, which is the idea of aging, and that potentially all of your progress is now going to kind of fall away, or it's just going to get worse, or this is just going to be a case of, oh, let's just try and maintain rather than push forward and still progress, which, as we know, isn't actually that true. So, Tom, like, what's your experience like? How has your training changed since you started?
Um. So I think there's a few different elements to this. obviously, like we're not going to say that as you get older, stuff doesn't change physically, because absolutely, like things will change within your body in terms of like hormonal changes. Like for guys, testosterone being like will drop as you age, um, and for example, like as you get older, your body will be a like not as receptive to building muscle tissue. But I think a lot of people kind of see that stuff and think that, okay, so like, so what's the point? Like, I'm not going to be able to make any progress as I get older. But we know that that's categorically not the case. And I've actually got a couple of clients that I coach at the moment who are in their 60s and are still making like good progress in terms of getting stronger, building muscle mass, and also learning like some cool bodyweight skills. Like one of my clients, Ben, is doing like human flags, and like
Yeah,
yes,
saw that.
the progress is relatively slow. He trains twice a week, and he's trained twice a week for such a long time, and I'm always amazed by like just showing up consistently twice a week for years on end, the point that you can kind of get to. And
Hmm.
we were having a chat in the gym the other day about this, because he was like, he almost found it weird that like he was seeing people of his age who like couldn't sit into a deep squat position. He was like, oh, I just do this.
It, yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I'm just thinking back to some of the clients I worked with whenever I was one-to-one coaching, and yeah, this whole idea that as you get older, your accomplishments and your potential for those things just diminish immediately, which is not true. Like I've seen people, yeah, no, obviously, as you said, yes, there's some obvious things that we need to take into consideration, like you're not going to recover as fast, all those things that naturally happen as we age. But I was just thinking about it whenever you said that. It's kind of very similar to people with cystic fibrosis, and including me, where you're told these are all the things you can't do.
Yeah,
So either you go and find that out yourself and find out your limitations, or you just accept that. And I think a lot of people have just gone, okay, well, I'm going to get weaker. I'm not going to be able to push myself, and they just kind of accept that as gospel instead of actually going out and challenging themselves. Like your client Ben, like he didn't even. He's probably even not. He probably thought it was strange for that people would struggle to sit and do a deep squat because he just finds it so
yeah,
natural at this point,
it's
which
just
is
normal.
yeah. So and again, people like him. And I said, I thinking about some of my first clients. Like I had a client called Stuart, and he was an older guy, and he worked harder than most people because he was just like, nah. People say I can't get stronger. I'm stronger because look at this. Look at how much weight I'm lifting here, and when I used to be, and it was yeah. So I think a lot of this is just people taking. I don't want to say hearsay because that's not it, but you know what I mean. They're taking other people's opinions of what they can do and uh, their capabilities and going, okay, and not questioning it, which I think
Yeah,
is a mistake. And it's a mistake that I thankfully avoided when it came to my CF because I was like, okay, you're telling me all this stuff, but I would rather go and find out for myself and then
yeah,
confirm it rather than just accept the fact that what you're saying is correct. But yeah, I
yeah.
think um, age is it's an odd thing because it can get in your head quite a bit, and I
Oh,
think
definitely.
there's even just the self talk. I think that's such an important thing. I talk to my clients about this in quite a bit of depth, and I've probably talked about it in this podcast as well. But the power of how you speak to yourself and the words you use and the phrasing you use, and I find that if I do say, "Oh, like I'm getting older," I'm like, "Why did I say that? I feel fine." Like I think the more
Yeah,
you talk the more you talk about it, the more you spend your time. And honestly, as hippie as it sounds, like the more energy you spend thinking that you are getting worse and you are doing this and blah blah blah, that's kind of guaranteeing the result that you're saying is going to happen without actually anything happening. If you say you're
yeah,
getting older, so I can't do this, like sprinting. In fact, the
yeah.
perfect example is the sprint. I think it was you I heard this from. That was like once people hit 30, they will like in all
Sure.
likelihood never sprint again.
Yeah,
Like that to me, that made me want to sprint. Whereas I know that
yeah,
that would make other people go, well, that's what, but again, this is just the difference in how people view things. And this isn't me saying I'm in any way stretch of the imagination like better for this way of thinking. It's just that a lot of people will go, okay, if someone told me after 30 you won't sprint, I see that as, okay, so there's my reason to sprint because people said I
yeah,
couldn't do it and shouldn't do it. Whereas a lot of people, and again, understandingly so, will go, well, there's a validating reason as to why I don't do this thing. And that is why most people don't do like
Yeah.
a lot of cool shit in their life, because they're just like, okay, I can't, there's no way I can do that. And again, people like your client Ben, perfect example. He probably thought, if he hadn't have done what he'd been doing, getting into a deep squat would have been something he thought was impossible for him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest things when you do work with the client, is seeing how they start viewing not only themselves, but then their potential reality of like what they could do and what they're capable of doing. And I think that as a coach, that is one of the coolest things to see manifesting in someone, of like, hey, I didn't think this was something I can do, and now I can do
100%.
it. And that's a
Yeah.
very cool thing. I mean, have you felt that at any point in your life with your training? Is there something you thought you couldn't potentially do and then you did it? I realize I'm asking you, Tom, this, and you can do everything you want
Yeah.
at any time. And this is the guy who literally had never played. So just like, as a bit of context around this, Tom and I met playing D&D. And did you have any experience playing D&D before that?
I played like RPG computer games growing up. So
But
like
no
within
actual
that kind of,
D&D.
no, I hadn't played actual D&D, but I had like
Yeah.
some idea of the of the mechanics, let's say, based on the games that I had played growing up. But
Yeah. So just to give, you and the listeners slash watchers an idea, I met you for the first time during D&D. I had assumed whenever you joined that you'd been playing for at least 6 months at that point, because just everything in the game that I was just like, would have to, you'd wait for the DM or the dungeon master to explain what you need to do. You were like, yep, got it, cool. And you'd be like, and I was just like, this guy's definitely done this before. So I do realize I'm asking Tom, essentially Chuck Norris, is there anything you've maybe thought you couldn't do? And I don't think there's, I guess, kind of a redundant
um,
question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there anything you didn't think you could do that you've done that made you go, okay, this is kind of cool?
so the thing that springs to mind for me is like having had the knee injuries that I've had. I think it's very easy to like you say, kind of get in your own head and start to believe like stuff that isn't necessarily actually true. Because I had a long period of time where um, going into sort of a deep squat position or like deep knee flexion was painful, and I started to kind of believe that that would always be the case.
Yeah.
Um, and it was only by slowly and kind of incrementally and progressively it came down to kind of building more strength in that range for me. It was only by sort of incrementally and progressively doing that that I came to realize that I wasn't as limited with that. But it'd be really easy to to carry on going through life and just continue thinking that. And I think that's exactly what happens like as people get older. And it's very much a case of if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the time when like people have issues training as they get older, is like, yeah, like we've spoken about, there is some physical change that do happen as you get older. But the biggest issue that most people end up having, in my opinion, is that they've had a period of inactivity or where they haven't trained. They've jumped back in at the point that they used to go in at. And yeah, maybe in your 20s you'll get away with that. But as you get older, if you have a longer period, like a couple of months, maybe a year, like that sort of thing out of training, you're going to have to take your time to kind of build it back up to a good point. And that's not to say you can't get there, but it's more so having that period of inactivity than actually aging itself that makes a difference. And I see this
Hmm.
all the time, particularly with people that have played some kind of sports in the past, because like they're already strong, they've already got that kind of capability, and they've maybe got like a little bit of an injury, so they've stopped training for a bit, and then they go straight back in and do exactly what they were doing before that, rather than being like, okay, where am I at? What, like, have I got like a little bit of a reduced tolerance it like in this movement or in this joint? Okay, cool, I need to kind of step things back a little bit to then rebuild them back up.
Yep.
um and inevitably what ends up happening is they don't do that, they go back in the same level, injure themselves again, have another period off, and it's like those sort of multiple periods of of not training in activity that I think has the biggest kind of detrimental impact um, to their ability to do things going forwards, and how they kind of perceive themselves, like their body and themselves as they age. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, talking about the ACL, I remember after doing mine, every single time I watched any rugby match, anything at all, anytime anyone went into a tackle, I was like, ACL. They're tearing the ACL. Anytime that someone make a
Yeah,
sidestep and they'd go a bit funny, I'd be like, ACL. It's because it's now forefront of your mind, that pain, that memory you have associated with it. It obviously drives to the forefront of your mind, so you start to doubt yourself. And if the brain doesn't
yeah,
want to do something, the body's not going to do it. It's as simple as that. Like, it takes a very special type of person to be able to override logic in your head. Again, it can be done, and it's difficult. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think the mistake I see so many people making is taking time off, with that through illness or just schedule changing or priorities changing, whatever it is, and then going in at the same level they left off at.
yeah,
I'm like, it's, to me, that's like taking time off a TV show that you were invested in and then trying to jump back into a new series, having not watched it in maybe a year or two. You're like, I don't fully remember what's going on. Who's this character? What does he have to do? You need a bit of like
yeah,
a recap. And that's what
yeah,
you've got to do with your training. You've got to have a little bit of this kind of like, in previous seasons, you've done this, but
yeah,
this is a different season. Like, in the previous season of your lifting career,
yeah,
you were able to
yeah,
do this, but that things have changed, and now you're going to have to go through this. And I think that's the thing that you just see so much. And it's something I've had to do in the last couple of months as well with my own training, and you as well. We've both been sick or injured or whatever's been going on with us, and we've had to go, okay, look, we'd love to be out up here where we used to be, but realistically, we're probably down here. So what can I
yeah,
do when I'm down here to try and get myself back up to there as soon as possible? And you have to build up that momentum. And it's
yeah,
tough, but one of the benefits to it is that most weeks, and we discussed this before, most weeks you're getting personal bests
yeah,
because you're on your way back up again. And one of the things that I say to people, and it always kind of calms that irrational, well, yeah, it's irrational, of I'm losing all this muscle tissue because I've taken time off.
yeah,
Your muscle, even if you have lost that much, like, and again, you don't lose as much as people think you do. If you're still continuing to move around and do everyday activities, like standing up, picking things up, generally speaking, and you're eating enough calories, muscle tissue isn't going to go away that quickly. Yes, it does disappear
yeah,
after a while, but it's not as much as people think. And then the process in which you can rebuild that lost tissue, it's insane how quickly you can build it back again. Like you were talking about
yeah,
injured athletes, the process that, an injured athlete, there's a study out there somewhere that I've read and I can't remember where it is, but they basically documented the time it took these athletes to get back to like pretty much where they were. And it
yeah,
was eye watering. Like, I can't remember the time difference, but it was so much of like, I was like, there's no way that's correct. It was that short a period of time that they were able to rebuild
yeah,
what they'd lost. So if you have lost some, it goes back pretty quickly, but just don't rush that process of trying to get back to there. Build it up slowly, and you're going to save yourself a lot of pain and a lot of, psychological torment as well.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think I
like
think
on,
it's really. Oh, sorry to cut you off,
mm-hmm.
mate. I think the the key thing is asking yourself, like, okay, I used to do this stuff, but where am I at right now? What have I been doing consistently for the last few months? And use that to guide your starting point rather than like your ego or think like knowing what you used to do.
Yep,
And just like another point on this as well in terms of sort of your body's capacity. I obviously sort of like we're speaking sort of more broadly about sort of what training have you been doing, but I think equally just like what are you kind of doing day to day? Because like obviously most people end up kind of sitting down for like long periods,
yep,
and it's amazing when I watch my boys and just what they're doing on a day to day basis, like the amount that they sprint and jump just like in their day to day lives. It's like it's no wonder that obviously they're very small, so like the amount of load and force going through it is a lot less than a fully grown adult, but they're doing that stuff all day, every day. And if you were doing a little bit of that stuff, like, or like most days, then you would like
It'd just be
definitely
normal.
retain the yeah, it'd be enormous. You'd retain the
Hmm.
ability to do it. And obviously, like saying that, it's hard to do that. So that's part of the reason that I like to incorporate a little bit of that in my training, because I know that day to day you're probably not gonna do it unless you're just playing with a child.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think in terms of I was actually talking to one of my clients about this earlier in terms of like from an enjoyment perspective, I really, really enjoy the jumping and plyometric based training, because it's the thing that for me gives me the most kind of confidence in my body's ability to be athletic and go and do
Yeah.
that. Cause I've had periods in the past where I've been doing some running and I've also been doing some strength work, but I also at that time probably didn't feel as confident as I do now to like jump off a low wall and land that and absorb that force, or like go and sprint, or like all of those kind of expressions of athleticism that are sometimes called for like in your day to day life.
It's funny, like you just made me laugh there. The idea, like, where was it? Where were we? Yes, yeah, it was when we were walking up that mountain the other day. There's a couple things where I went to go and do it, and then it's like
Yeah,
my knees went,
yeah,
"You sure about that, bro?" And I was just like,
yeah,
"Well, I was until you start talking. Like, I was
yeah.
fine, like I was ready to jump, and then you two little sensitive bitches just were like, "You sure? You sure?" One of us might crack really disgustingly, but it's amazing how that side of you starts to talk a little bit more as you get older. But yeah, I love that idea that kids are. I mean, I just watched my nephews. I was like, kids don't sit down really, like
No,
willingly. They'll only sit down to eat or if they're distracted.
yeah.
That's the only two times you'll see a kid. Again, from my experience anyway, sitting down and just being like, just wait. Like
Yeah,
they're always moving, they're always jumping, they're just expending so much energy. And yeah, you just as you get older, you realize that energy has to be spent in the right areas because everything starts pulling you in all these different directions. And that's one of the other things that really does change as you get older is your priorities and what takes up time in your day. Like we're no longer 20 years old where we can spend hours in the gym. Like, I mean, that's the biggest thing whenever I look at my training from, before we started in this episode, I was like, what has really changed in my training since, I was younger? And that's the
yeah,
biggest thing is this, the time that I have and the time that that I'm willing to put into the gym because I've got other
yeah,
interests outside of the gyms, other things that I would rather be spending my time on. Whereas when you're younger, especially when I was younger, like we didn't have much else to do. Didn't have jobs, didn't have any partners, didn't have anyone other than ourselves to really look after. So that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people will go, oh, well, I used to get results in my 20s. What was I doing in my 20s? Well, we'll go back to that. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not in your 20s anymore. You're looking
yeah,
at a script that is way outdated and you need to update that script if you're going to get results for who you are as an individual today. And, not having a plan that flows with your current lifestyle and what's going on in your life, you're doomed to fail if you don't have that capacity and that ability to do that. So I'd say for me, the biggest things changed is my approach of quality versus quantity. I used to just think it was just doing more of everything. And I think a
yeah,
lot of people fall into that trap of they assume that training, because it's an output, they feel like, oh, well, the more output I have, the better results I'll get. And I'm like, well, yes, you're kind of on the right track, but the only way that output's going to matter is if you got the same amount of time and energy going back into the the output is matched by your recovery.
yeah,
Because if your output is super high and your ability to recover is super low, you're shooting yourself in the foot by having that high of an input or sorry, an output. I keep getting mixed up with inputs, outputs,
yeah,
but you get you
yeah,
get what I'm saying. The words
yeah,
matter not. So
yeah,
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that people don't prioritize as they get older the quantity over the quality. So their sets, they try and stay at the same amount of sets and reps they were doing when they were younger, which
yeah,
again, difficult to recover because you're older and your capacity to recover have dropped off a little bit, not by too much. And then the
Yeah.
other element of it is not treating rest appropriately. Is that something you see? Like, is that something you see just in social media or with new clients, that they don't take rest and recovery as seriously as they should, or they maybe believe they should?
Um, to a certain extent, yeah. I think, for me, from what I see, the thing that actually makes training harder as you get older, the biggest thing is, and you've just like alluded to it, is like it is less of a priority. So you
Hmm.
have more other commitments, you have less time to do it, you probably sleep worse. You've got all these other life stresses that you're balancing. And like you said, it's that sort of like focusing on the quality and what you can actually do. And it ties into like, okay, where am I at? What can I actually do right now? Asking yourself that question. I think that is the biggest thing that makes training harder as you get older versus like your body starting to slow down. Um, and then like spoke about having periods of inactivity with either injuries or life stuff, and not sort of maintaining just like a low like it, and it doesn't need to be much, but a low level of training like all the time if possible.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of the recovery element, yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes a difference, and it will be harder to recover from your training as you get older. But I think it's a relatively small kind of population of people probably that do have the time to put into pushing that boundary of training, or at least like they might do that for a short period if they're kind of if that's what they're used to doing and they're just coming back into training.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, it's definitely something to consider because yeah, obviously, like we said, as you get older, your body will start to slow down less so than what you think, but you've also got all these other stresses in your life. And if you think of the analogy that I quite like to kind of describe this is like obviously training stress goes into a bucket, but that bucket is also going to be full up with like work stress, family stress, life
Social. Yeah.
stress, like all of your other stresses. And in your 20s, you've probably got relatively like a small amount of other stresses going into that. So you do have that capacity to do like to probably push a little bit more. Whereas as you get older, you've got all these other things that are both a priority from a time perspective, but also like having an impact from a stress perspective. They all go into
Hmm.
that bucket. And if that bucket overflows, that's where you'll end up getting ill. That's where you'll end up probably like picking up an injury, that sort of thing. So you do have to respect that. And that's more so like, that's not necessarily like because of your physical capacity. That's because of like the sort of mental and emotional capacity that you've got, and all the other things that take up that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think the kind of the main, I wouldn't say argument, but the main summary of this is that yes, you will, like, training does get more difficult as you age, but it's not necessarily age that is what is making it harder. It's the circumstances that come with aging that are making
Yeah.
it difficult. And most of the time it's psychological, a case of prioritization. Things are naturally going to come into a higher priority in your life as you get older. And then I'm trying to think what the other one is really. I think just believing. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of mentioned that already, but like the belief of, yeah, uh, aging is making me. Yeah, it's basically validating the excuse you have. That's
Yeah.
essentially, where I see the issues coming in. But so we're both 36 now, aren't we?
Yeah.
You 30? Yeah. So
I had to think then.
I was like, what year is it? It's
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah.
I'm born in 1990. Yes, I'm 36.
Yeah.
So, like, have you noticed, like, you're in yourself? Have you noticed a difference in yourself in terms of that you would associate with potentially aging?
Um, I don't think so. Um, I like, I think probably the biggest thing is like my sleep is definitely worse these days than what it than what it
But
ever has
but
been.
perfect example.
But
That's not your age though. That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
that's the lifestyle. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
lifestyle.
what one other thing that's sort of kind of related. Um, I think in terms of sort of I guess in terms of what like how I feel about my kind of physical capability now, I feel like that is as good now, if not better than probably like 5, 10 years ago, just in terms of like my strength through range, my like my overall sort of mobility and that sort of thing. But sometimes if you do get like like a tendon injury, you do have to kind of take that little bit longer kind of warming up into stuff. And
Yeah,
I think it's that like I feel fairly like capable in terms of if I was to go into a session, I could like just start with my main movement and kind of get on with it now. Unless I have got something that's a little bit niggly going into that, in which case like I do need to take a little bit longer warming up. Um, so yeah, I would say probably not. Maybe I'm a little bit stiffer like when I first wake up in the morning, like the first 5 to 10 minutes. But other than that, I would say generally I feel pretty good. How about you? Like how would you?
same. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever blamed anything on, oh, because I'm getting old now. It's
yeah,
because I haven't done that in a while, or I haven't been able to do that in a while. That's my only real limitations. Like, yeah, of course, when I was much younger, you could have probably told me to go out and try and do a forward flip on my lawn and I would have done it. But I
yeah,
was 16, 17. Now I go, okay, I'll take a little bit longer to warm up.
yeah,
Whenever I was sprinting on the beach with my nephews, did I do a couple leg swings? Yes. Did I do a couple hip
yeah,
mobility things? Yeah. Did I roll my ankles a little bit? Yeah. Would I have done that when I was 20-ish? Probably not. I probably would have just started off into a sprint and gone for it. But I don't think that's age. It's just knowing our bodies better.
yeah,
Um, and then obviously just being a bit heavier as well. That's another consideration as you get older. Well, I'm a lot heavier than I was when I was younger. So even just carrying that more amount of weight in your frame, that's a
yeah,
reason why I might be, whenever I go to jump down from something, I'm like, well, I am 10 kilos heavier than the last time I did this. Maybe that I've got to consider that. But it's not, I don't think I've ever said to myself, it's an age thing that stopped me from doing that.
yeah.
For example,
That
playing football, like American
yeah,
football, someone asked me, oh, would you go back to it? And I was like, I would love to go back to it, but I'm not willing to put in the amount of time and prep it would take just for me to just enjoy a practice session. I would need to go and condition my hips, condition my ankles, calves, hamstrings, hips, lower back. Like I would need to spend so much time revving that up that I'm like,
yeah.
is it worth my time? So, and again, a lot of the cases, that's not age. It's just again me knowing what way my body works now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
So yeah,
I think something you said a second ago is really apt. It's like knowing what you've been doing, and you see, like that's not to say you can't get back to
no,
doing those things or going and doing a front flip or like all of those things. But it's like if you've not done anything like that for a little while, you pro you probably do want to say like that's the thing to appreciate, not am I older sort of thing. It's like it's like I notice it with some of the calisthenics and bodyweight skills that I've been doing. Like if I've not done it for a while, I'm like I'll maybe try it and I'll be like, oh yeah, this doesn't feel great. Like tendons it a little bit. Like it doesn't feel good. But it's not because I'm necessarily oldest because I've not exposed my body to those ranges and I've not done it. Whereas I think like when you are younger, particularly if you're playing a sport, you've kind of got that capacity in your locker. You've got it in your back pocket because
yeah.
you're kind of constantly conditioned to those things.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. It's like okay, like where it's again, it's like where am I at? What have I been doing for the last couple of months? Am I in a position where I can just go and do that, or do I need to spend some time like preparing myself to go and do it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And as I said, I don't think I've ever felt that it's been like it's the fact that you're 36 is the reason why you can't do that. It's just has
Yeah,
the story I've been writing up until this point led me to think I can do this at this point? No, I've
yeah,
not been spending time. If I wanted to do handstands or something, or even cartwheels, Have I been strengthening my wrists to do that? No. Okay, so yeah, maybe if I did do that, then I could potentially do it. But yeah, I don't think it's an age thing. And again, this is very relative to our specific age right now. But again, a part of me believes this is something that you can maintain as long as you want. I
Yeah.
remember hearing a story. I was doing a practical workshop over in England, and the guy who was running the course, he was speaking to me about a guy who used to train in his gym, and he said he was an older guy, and he'd come in and he'd do the same workouts every single day. And then one of the coaches went up to him and said, "How old are you?" He goes, "Don't know." And he's like, "What do you mean you don't know what age you are?" And he goes, "I just don't believe in it. I just think it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, and that a lot of people, including people who are of my potential age, whatever that may be, they would assume that their age is the reason why they can't do a lot of stuff, and I just refuse to adhere to that way of thinking." And I was like, "That's a really cool way of thinking about it." That you
Yeah.
hear all these like, "Oh, in your 40s," and you have all
Yeah.
these almost like preconceived notions of what your 40s are going to be like because of what everyone else's experience of their 40s are going to be like, and then their
Yeah.
50s and then their 60s. But then there's always those people who defy, you know, what you expect of that age. Like, how many times have you seen, like, on social media, of like, there's a 60-year-old woman who started lifting weights at this age and has had this
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah.
results? And I think that's incredible for people to see, because it starts to kind of, and again, I just keep thinking about this in terms of my CF. If I had listened to what everyone else told me my capacity would be, where would I be today? Probably,
Yeah.
honestly, nowhere. I wouldn't have done half the things and I didn't do it out of spite. It wasn't me like, "Oh, I'm going to prove you wrong." It was literally just me being like, "Okay, well, that's interesting that you think that, but I would like to find that out myself, because that seems like a lot of fun. Like, I
Yeah.
would like to do this thing because I know it might make me feel better. Putting on muscle tissue. Told I couldn't do that, but I was like, but I know putting on muscle tissue would make me feel confident, and maybe that I
Yeah.
don't have this illness." And I think it's just so important to see people doing things, that are socially acceptable for them to not
Yeah.
do. I think that's a
Yeah.
really cool thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's worth saying as well, like, obviously we've spoken about sort of not like maintaining training as you get older, but I think
Mhm.
it's worth saying it's never too late to start. You will always
Yes.
get unbelievable benefits from even if you've never trained up until the point you're like 50 or 60. Even if you start then, it will dramatically improve your health, your lifespan, and also like your sort of your physical freedom for like your lifespan. Like there was a cool study about it. It was that they got, I can't remember the exact details, but it was they got a load of 90-year-olds and all they got them to do was leg extensions, but it increased their walking speed by like 50 or 100% by just doing like a couple of sets of leg extensions a week, just literally like the most isolated leg exercise you could possibly do.
Hmm.
They got slightly stronger quads, and as a result, they were like their walking speed doubled at that age, which it just shows you like all of the stuff about like, oh, I'm not going to build muscle, I'm not going to build strength, like it's completely irrelevant. Like you absolutely can, and it just depends on what your starting point is, and definitely like yeah, there's no like even if you've never done it before, start now, because it will have a dramatically positive benefit on your life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's something I was going to mention. You said it perfectly there. That instead of looking at this as, again, talking about how people just take what everyone else says as kind of gospel and then never question themselves, is the idea that, oh, it's too late for me. I'm too
Yeah.
old to start training. The amount of people I've heard saying that, and I'm like, and they're in their 40s. Oh, it's too late
Yeah.
for me, because we
Yeah.
all just like, I'm like, we don't age like bananas or like an avocado. An avocado it's like,
Yeah.
it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It's the worst. We're not
Yeah.
avocados. Like, we don't just go, boom, immediate decline. It is a slow process. So I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. Of you know, there's never, it's never too late to start this process. And going back to at the start, we were talking about what we're doing over the weekend. It was the we're prepping for a charity event that I'm going to be running in September. And the whole purpose of this charity event is to. I thought back on my life and I was like, I've seen so many things that I never thought I'd see. I've been to places that I never thought I would go to, and I've had adventures that in a million years never would have imagined I would have been able to go on if I hadn't done what I've done in my life. And being on those adventures, like being able to simply get up and go up a mountain or to do whatever I've done, like that's something I'll never not appreciate. That's what I want for everyone. Like I want people to have as many adventures as possible. And if you're physically fit and able, you're going to be able to have more of those adventures.
Yeah.
So look at it like that of like this is going to further my enjoyment of my time on this planet. Like I know it sounds like that sounds like a very big concept, but it's true and something that I think about a lot, and I think it's worth mentioning because everyone's talking about the immediate, rewards of what you get from exercise, and that's great and amazing. But I think you can extend it as that, kind of zoom out a little bit further and be like, well, what is this actually going to give me? Like this is going
Yeah.
to give me moments that I'll never forget. It gives you time with your family, it gives you time with your friends, and that's ultimately why I want people to do this. But that's at my core, that's why I want to be a coach, because I want to show people, and this kind of ties into what the message of this entire episode is just maybe don't let other people dictate what you do. And that's kind of what I've managed to do in my life, which has been extremely rewarding for me as an individual. And I just want people to have as many cool experiences in their life. So yeah, I think that kind of summarizes
Yeah.
everything that we'll be talking about in this episode is, do you get worse as you get older? Yes, but it's only as much as you're allowed to be. There's plenty of things in your control that you
Yeah.
can not stop the process by any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to pretend that we can stop the aging process, unlike that dude who's trying to do that at the moment. I feel great when I moisturize. I'm not going to lie to you, Tom. When I put moisturizer on, I'm like, I'm going to live until I'm 90 and have amazing skin. And this guy's like taking every supplement under the sun and blood. I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
looking after myself.
Yeah.
I'm doing tomorrow's me a favor
Yeah.
by moisturizing. It's a low bar I've set.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it kind of just it does bring that all back into into perspective of, look, life is short, like really is. Don't let anyone else's opinions dictate what you do. At least challenge them, and that's kind of what we're hoping you would take from this episode.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add, Tom, or anything else you feel like we've missed in this myth
Um,
busting kind of episode?
I don't. I think that's a really nice way to round off this episode. But one thing that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't done yet is a would you rather.
I
So,
was. Have you got one? I have one ready, but if you've got one, you go for it. You give me one.
I'm just looking at a couple here.
Do you want me to ask you
Um,
mine, and then you
yeah,
can
go
pick
on
one?
there. Go on then. I'll
Okay.
come back to you.
Would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future? So you could literally just go, I want to see 10 minutes into the future, or
Yeah.
10 years into the future. You can access either of them at any point. So you can go, okay, well, it's 10 years from this exact moment. Okay, what's 10 minutes from this exact moment? Which would you prefer?
Oh, that's hard. I imagine 10 years into the future would be like well scary.
You know what? I think I was saying this the other day. I think it'd be so confusing, especially if it wasn't like, because if you think about it, obviously I had this question lined up, so I could give it a little bit of thought. But if there's been moments in my life that I've said like, oh, if I was able to snap into this moment in my life, I'd be like, where the hell am I and who are these people? I think it was actually
Yeah.
whenever we were over at the D&D weekend. I was like, I don't know any of these dudes. And suddenly I'm now in some random city I never thought I'd be in with a bunch of dudes who
Yeah.
I, at this point last year, only knew one of them.
Yeah.
Like, so I imagine this of the perspective of, it's not like what you think in like films where you get this lovely, beautiful overview of what the 10 years have happened in those 10 years. It's just like immediately, like right now you're sitting at your computer or wherever you're going to be in 10 years. And then you're like, oh my, like what the heck just happened? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I think it'd be extremely difficult to just process. Whereas 10 minutes.
You'd have
Yeah.
no context at all.
None. You could wake up like underwater in Mexico or something. You never know where you're going to be in 10 years.
How long do you stay in that moment for?
I think as long as you focus on it. So that's my fake.
Yeah,
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 I think yeah. I imagine it's like a close eyes. You're
yeah,
almost you have to kind of like almost really focus on it.
yeah. I reckon I would probably choose 10 years because 10 minutes into the future, I mean, it'd be useful if you're like, it's like on a computer game, you got your quick save and like you can just like do something, load,
That's true.
do
That's
something,
true.
load, do something, load.
You know
But
what?
I think there's probably not that many situations that would actually be that useful.
Yeah. No, I was thinking, you know what? You'd end up just becoming. So I thought like maybe the emotional backlash of jumping 10 years into the future might be something that, a lot of therapy sessions could maybe cure you of.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking if it was 10 minutes, you would become the most paranoid. I don't think you would live in the present at all because you'd be so concerned about
Yeah.
what's happening in the next 10 minutes. So I was originally going to 10 minutes, but I think you swayed me over to 10 years. I mean, there's also then the obvious concern that you'd do okay, what's going to happen in 10 years? And it's just blackness. And you're like, oh dear.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I made a wrong turn somewhere. Yeah.
when did this happen?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what did I
Yeah,
miss? Yeah, that would be my only potential concern for that one. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to let go with the 10-year one.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah, I think
interesting.
I'd go
That'll be
10
interesting.
years as well.
Did you find one, or do you want to leave it on that one?
No, I'll find one for next time. I'll find one for next
Perfect.
time.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Do you want to tell people all the podcasty stuff right at the end here?
Go on then.
Subscribed and
If you have enjoyed that episode and found that useful, please do share that with someone who you think would also find it useful. Like we said before, we like really appreciate any kind of shares or anything like that that helps us to grow this and spread some hopefully good information that you find useful. So yeah, if you do have if there is anyone that you think would find this useful, please do share. And thank you very much for listening if you got this far.
appreciate it. Love you. Have a great day.
We should we
Bye.
shall see you next time. Bye.
Bye.